The music was a dull headache, a string quartet murdering a pop song I was too old to recognize and too tired to care about. White flowers spilled from every surface, peonies and lilies releasing a scent so thick it was suffocating, a sweet, funereal perfume that clogged my throat. Laughter erupted from a table nearby, bright and brittle, like glass shattering. It sounded entirely foreign. I huddled in the darkest corner of the ballroom, a fortress of shadows built against the relentless, blinding joy of the reception. The Grand Hotel on Fifth Avenue. Maria had impeccable taste. I had to give her that. The room was magnificent. All gilded ceilings and crystal chandeliers that dripped light like diamonds. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, New York glittered below us, a silent, sprawling galaxy. But inside this room, I was an astronaut who had cut her own tether. My hand was cold, numb around the heavy crystal tumbler. The whiskey inside was amber, almost black in the dim light. I took a slow sip, welcoming the familiar, antiseptic burn as it scorched a path down my esophagus. It was the only real thing I had felt in hours. Champagne was for celebrating. Whiskey was for enduring. This was Maria's wedding. My best friend. I should have been happy for her. I truly was. Somewhere deep beneath the layers of polished cynicism and profound exhaustion, she was radiant, a vision in couture lace. Her smile so wide it looked like it had to hurt. She had found her great love. I, on the other hand, had found a portfolio worth 8 figures, a corner office with a view that could make a king weep, and an apartment in Tribeca so quiet you could hear the dust settle. I was Isabella Reynolds, a shark in the financial world, a woman who could liquidate a company before breakfast and not spill her coffee. Successful, polished, beautiful, people said. And I was completely, desperately alone. It was a cliché, the successful woman miserable at her best friend's wedding. I hated it. I hated the pitying glances from relatives who remembered me as a bright-eyed girl, not this 27-year-old husk. I hated the way the men looked at me, their eyes sliding over my silk dress with a practiced, predatory assessment before they remembered their own wives sitting beside them. This was not my world, not anymore. My world had been shattered by a man who promised me forever and delivered betrayal so complete it left me hollowed out. That was 2 years ago, but the emotional shrapnel was still working its way to the surface. He had taught me that love was a transaction, and I had simply made a bad investment. So I sat in the dark, nursing my whiskey, a ghost at the feast. Maria had seated me at a singles table, a well-intentioned disaster of mismatched, hopeful people. I had endured the cocktail hour, the ceremony, and the dinner. I had smiled until my face ached. I had laughed at jokes that were not funny. I had done my duty as maid of honor. Now, I just wanted to leave. I checked my watch. 10:30. Another hour, perhaps. I could slip out without Maria noticing. She was lost in her new husband's eyes, as she should be. The groom. He was the reason this all felt so wrong, so strange. He was from an old New York family. Maria had said, rich, obviously, but there was something else. The guests on his side of the aisle were different. The men wore their suits like armor. They were quiet, watchful, their faces hard planes and sharp angles. The women were impossibly beautiful, draped in jewels that looked heavy enough to drown them, their smiles as bright and hard as the diamonds at their throats. Even the security was strange. Men in dark suits who never smiled, who stood by the exits with earpieces, their eyes constantly scanning the crowd. This was not a normal wedding. This was a merger. Maria, my sweet, naive Maria, had married into something powerful, something that required bodyguards. I pushed the thought away and focused on the whiskey. The ice clinked softly, a tiny bell tolling in my glass. I let the liquid coat my tongue, savoring the peat and smoke. I sensed him before I saw him. It was a peculiar thing. The noise of the room did not dip, the lights did not dim, but the air around my small table thickened, became charged. A shadow fell over me. Eclipsing the faint candlelight, I felt a sudden, primitive chill, the kind of stillness that falls over the forest seconds before a predator strikes. I looked up slowly, my defenses already rising. He was tall, eclipsing the candlelight. He was not one of the Wall Street types, all practiced smiles and flimsy arrogance. This man was built from different material. He was a creature of shadow and substance, his suit a near black, so exquisitely tailored it seemed to move with him like a second skin. He was standing perfectly still, just watching me. I could not see his eyes clearly in the dimness, but I could feel the weight of his gaze. It was not predatory, not in the way I was used to. It was proprietary, like a king observing his own lands. My heart, usually a steady, bored metronome, gave a painful, warning jolt. My mouth went dry. I was used to handling men who wanted to beat me in the market. This man looked like he did not play by any market rules. He leaned down, just slightly. He was close enough that I could smell the faint, clean scent of expensive wool and something sharp, almost like cold air. His voice came, not loud, but cutting through the noise of the room as if it were the only sound that mattered. It was deep, warm, and impossibly smooth, like the whiskey in my glass. "Would you like to dance, wife?" The two words hit me like a physical blow. Wife. I froze, the glass halfway to my lips. My brain scrambled to process the word. It was an absurdity, a mistake. He had to be talking to someone else, some woman hidden in the shadows behind me. I did not dare to turn. I just stared up at him. The man had not moved. He was still looking at me. There was no trace of a joke on his face, no hint of a misunderstanding. He was perfectly serious. Wife. Who was this man? He was not one of the groom's party I had seen. He was not a guest I recognized. He was a stranger who had appeared from the darkness and laid claim to me with a single, impossible word. Was he a Mafia boss? One of the groom's shadowy family? Was he just some powerful, arrogant lunatic with cold, sharp eyes? The air crackled with the unasked question, and as I stared into the darkness where his eyes should be, I knew that answering him, or not answering him, would be the most important decision I had made all night. My journey into an unexpected, dangerous new world had just begun. I was used to being looked at. In my line of work, you are always being assessed, men in particular. They look at you in the boardroom and try to calculate your weakness. They see a woman, young, attractive, and they see a target. They underestimate you. They think you are soft, that you will break, that you can be charmed or bullied. I had built an empire on that underestimation. I had learned to turn my mind into a fortress, my face into a mask of polite, impenetrable steel, my heart. I kept locked in a vault buried so deep I sometimes forgot where I had put the key. The man standing over me was not like those boardroom predators. He was not assessing a target. He was observing a subject. His stillness was absolute, his presence a physical weight in the air. My defenses, usually so quick to snap into place, faltered. They felt like paper shields against a tank. This feeling was new. It was terrifying. It threw me back, years back, to the last time I had felt so completely exposed, back to Mark. Mark, even his name in my head tasted like ash and cheap wine. He was the reason I was here, in this corner, drinking whiskey instead of champagne. He was the reason I flinched from happy couples. He was the architect of the vault around my heart. I had been young, 24, just starting to make a name for myself at the firm. I was brilliant. Everyone said so. A prodigy with numbers, a sixth sense for the market's rhythms. I was also naive. I still believed in things. I believed in effort, in fairness, and, stupidly, in love. He was an analyst from a rival firm, handsome in that careless, easy way that Wall Street breeds, all perfect teeth, expensive watches, and a rehearsed, disarming smile. He pursued me for months. He sent flowers. He quoted poetry. He remembered the name of my childhood dog. He seemed to listen. He seemed to see me. The woman behind the spreadsheets. I fell completely for one entire year. I was dizzy with it. I gave him everything, my time, my trust, my body. I even gave him my secrets. Not company secrets. I was not a fool. But my ideas, my theories on a new emerging market, the algorithms I was developing in my spare time. I told him my dreams. I told him he was my dream. The end came swiftly, and it was devastatingly public. It was at a quarterly review meeting with our biggest clients, and there, on the projector screen, was my algorithm, my work, presented by Mark as his own. He had taken my half-formed genius, polished it, and claimed it. He did not even look at me as he spoke. He had been poached by my firm's biggest competitor, and this was his debut. He had not just stolen from me. He had used me as his admission ticket. When I confronted him afterward, his easy smile never wavered. He told me, "Izzy, it is just business. Do not be so emotional." Emotional. I did not get emotional. I did not cry. I did not scream. I went home to my apartment. I threw out every gift he had ever given me. I deleted every picture, every message, and then I went to work. I worked for 72 hours straight. I did not sleep. I lived on coffee and a cold. Precise rage that burned hotter than any love I had ever felt. In 6 months, I had my own team. In a year, I was a vice president. In 2 years, I was the youngest senior partner in the firm's history. I made myself into a weapon. I was Isabella Reynolds. I did not need love. I did not need trust. I needed results. I took every wound Mark had inflicted and forged it into armor. I was rich. I was powerful. I was respected. And I was broken. This wedding was a minefield. Maria was the last piece of my old life, the one person who still knew the girl before the armor. She had held me that one night I finally did break, months after Mark, when the emptiness became too vast to ignore. She had sat on my floor and held my hand while I sobbed, not saying a word. She was my sister in all but blood. When she asked me to be her maid of honor, I could not say no. I would have walked through fire for her, so I walked into this instead, this suffocating, opulent display of everything I had told myself I did not want. I tried to be here for her, but the truth was, I was also hiding. The last few months at work had been brutal, a hostile takeover that had demanded every ounce of my focus. I was running on fumes. I had thought this wedding, this weekend away from the city's frantic pulse, would be a reprieve, a place to breathe. But I could not breathe here. The air was too rich. The hotel ballroom was a masterpiece of classic New York luxury. The ceilings were at least 30 feet high, frescoed with angels and clouds. The walls were paneled in dark, gleaming wood. Every table was a riot of white blossoms and flickering candles. It was beautiful, a perfect fantasy. For me, it was just a gilded cage. It was a brightly lit room full of strangers, all performing happiness, the laughter, the dancing, the clinking glasses. It was all a wall of sound that locked me inside my own head. It was a deafening reminder of my own isolation. I was an alien here, observing a ritual I no longer understood. I was fluent in risk analysis and market projections, but I had forgotten the language of simple, unguarded joy. So I sat in my corner, with my whiskey, watching Maria look at her new husband with a light in her eyes I dimly remembered feeling once. Watching the other couples sway on the dance floor, lost in each other. Each one was a small, painful pinch against the scar tissue of my heart. And now, this man. He had not moved. He just stood there, watching me. His gaze was not hot like Mark's had been. It was cool, almost cold, but it was heavy. It pinned me to the chair. I felt like one of my own spreadsheets, all my numbers and figures laid bare for his inspection. I lifted my chin. I would not be intimidated. Not here, not by him. I had faced down billionaires who could buy this entire hotel as a teardown. I had destroyed the careers of men twice my age and half as smart. This was just a man, a tall, impossibly well-dressed, and vaguely dangerous-looking man, but a man nonetheless. He had not come here for a stock tip. He had come here for the same reason men always approached me at these things. He saw a single woman, and he saw an opportunity. I prepared my polite, lethal dismissal, the one that could cut a man's ego to ribbons without him even realizing he was bleeding until he walked away. I steeled myself for his opening line. A compliment, a banal question about the wedding, a stupid joke. I was ready for anything, or so I thought. I had no idea, not in the slightest, as I sat there in my silk dress, my heart encased in ice, that my life was not just about to change. It was about to end, and a new one, a terrifying and intoxicating one, was about to begin. All because of the man who was still looking at me, a faint, unreadable smile playing on his lips, as if he knew every thought in my head, as if he had been waiting for me. He was tall, broad, and dressed in a black suit that was so perfectly cut it seemed less like clothing and more like a part of him. It was not the flashy, logo-driven armor of the Wall Street crowd. This was different, and this was quiet, bespoke, and utterly menacing in its perfection. His shirt was a stark, brilliant white, his tie a simple slash of black silk, no jewelry, save for a heavy, simple watch on his left wrist that looked more expensive than my car. His face was all hard angles and shadows, a strong jaw, a straight, aristocratic nose, and a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile, but it was his eyes that held me. They were dark, not brown or blue, but a deep, fathomless black. They were cold. They were sharp. And they were fixed on me with an intensity that stripped the air from my lungs. I opened my mouth, my standard icy dismissal ready on my tongue. "I am afraid you are mistaken. I am—" He did not let me finish. His voice came, and it was not loud, but it cut through the din of the string quartet and the laughter as if it were the only sound in the room. It was a low, smooth baritone, like dark whiskey poured over velvet. "Would you like to dance, wife?" The words hung in the air between us. My brain stalled, trying to process the syntax. Wife. He had said wife. My gaze darted around. Surely he was speaking to someone behind me. There was no one there, just a potted palm and a waiter refilling a champagne flute. I looked back at him. He had not moved. His dark eyes had not wavered. "I think you have me confused with someone else," I said. My voice was tight, colder than I intended. The boardroom gladiator was back. "I am not your wife." A normal man would have stammered. He would have apologized, made an awkward joke, and retreated in embarrassment. This man did not. His lips tilted, a fractional movement that was not a smile. It was an acknowledgement of my words. Nothing more. "No," he said, his voice still impossibly calm. "You are not, but you should be." My breath hitched, the sheer, unadulterated audacity of it. This was a new level of arrogance, far beyond the puffed-up egos I dealt with daily. I felt a flush of anger, hot and sharp. "Excuse me," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "I'm not interested." I went to turn away, to lift my glass and dismiss him, a queen dismissing a court jester. His hand shot out. He did not grab me. He did not touch my arm. He simply laid his hand flat on the table, next to my elbow, blocking my retreat. The gesture was casual, almost lazy, but it was as effective as a steel bar. "My apologies," he said, and the tone was polite, but the words felt hollow. A script learned. "That was improper. Let us start again." He straightened to his full height, and I had to crane my neck to look at him. He was well over 6 feet, built like a man who did not get his physique from a personal trainer, but from a life of actual physical consequence. "My name is Vincent DeMarco," he said. The name meant nothing to me. It was not on any list of CEOs. I had never seen it on a prospectus. I must have looked blank, because the shadow of a smile touched his lips again. "Anthony, the groom," he clarified. "He is my cousin." The pieces began to slide into place. DeMarco. This was the groom's family. This was the source of the quiet, watchful men. This was the old New York family Maria had spoken of, the one with the quiet, intense power. As if summoned by the thought, my eyes flickered to the nearest dark-suited man by the exit. He was looking at us, not at me, at the man, Vincent DeMarco, and the look in his eyes was not suspicion. It was a deep, ingrained, absolute deference. The guard gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. My blood went cold. This was not just a guest. This was not just the groom's cousin. This was the center of the gravity I had been feeling all night. I turned back to him. He was still watching me, his patience seemingly infinite. "And you are Isabella Reynolds," he stated. It was not a question. "Izzy, maid of honor. You work at Stratton, Pierce, and Howe, senior partner, financial strategy. You live at 101 Murray Street, apartment 42B. You prefer whiskey. Neat. But you are drinking it on the rocks tonight because the house brand is beneath you and the ice dilutes the poor taste. You are very loyal to your friend, but you have been checking your watch every 15 minutes for the last hour. You want to leave." The room tilted, the music, the laughter, it all faded into a distant buzzing roar. This was not a guess. This was not a charming observation. This was data. This was surveillance. He knew my nickname, the one only Maria used. He knew my firm. He knew my title. He knew my address. My heart, that cold, dormant thing, began to hammer against my ribs, a frantic bird in a cage. My skin prickled with a sudden, icy fear that was entirely new. This was not the thrill of a market fight. This was the primal terror of being seen by a predator. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. All my boardroom poise, my carefully constructed armor, evaporated. I was just a woman in a corner, suddenly very, very exposed. "I told you," he said. "I am Vincent DeMarco." He leaned in, and I fought the instinct to recoil. He was close enough now that I could smell him. There was no cologne, just the clean scent of expensive soap, starch, and something else. Something metallic and sharp, like ozone before a lightning strike. "You have been pointed out to me, Isabella," he said, his voice dropping so low no one else could possibly hear. "You are quite the legend on your little street, the woman who cannot be beaten, the one who took down Thomas Avery without even breaking a sweat." My blood turned to ice. The Thomas Avery deal. That was not public. That was a closed-door, brutal fight that had been settled and buried in less than a day. The details were known only to me, my team, and Avery's. The fact that he knew. The fact that he used my name and his in the same breath. "DeMarco," I whispered, the name finally clicking, the pieces slamming into place with the force of a physical blow. I had seen the name, not in the Wall Street Journal, in the crime reports. The DeMarco family, the last of the great New York crime families, not the thuggish brutes of the movies, but a sophisticated, terrifyingly efficient, and utterly ruthless organization that the press spoke of in hushed, fearful tones. They were untouchable. I was sitting in front of a Mafia boss. The room was spinning. Maria, my God, Maria, what had she married into? Vincent DeMarco watched my realization dawn with a look of detached interest, as if he were a scientist observing a chemical reaction. "Now you understand," he said. He pushed back slightly, giving me room to breathe, though it did not help. He gestured to the dance floor, where the string quartet was playing something slow and mournful. The invitation stands, "Isabella." It was not a request. I saw that now. It was a summons. And in this world, I suddenly understood. You did not refuse a summons from a man like Vincent DeMarco. To do so would be a very bad business decision. My hand was shaking. I willed it to be still. I was Isabella Reynolds. I did not shake. I put my half-full whiskey glass down on the table, the clink of the crystals sounding unnaturally loud in the bubble of silence he had created around us. Slowly, as if in a dream, I stood up. He was taller than I had even thought. I had to look up, way up, to meet his eyes. He held out his hand. It was large, The fingers long, the palm broad. It was a capable, confident hand, a hand that could sign a death warrant or close a deal with the same steady, impersonal grace. My fear was a cold, hard knot in my stomach, but beneath it, something else flickered, something dark and unwelcome that I had not felt since the days before Mark, a raw, electric bolt of curiosity, a terrifying thrill. This man was dangerous in a way I could barely comprehend, and he had singled me out. I placed my hand in his. His skin was warm, his grip firm. He did not pull me. He simply enclosed my hand in his and turned, leading me toward the dance floor. The crowd parted for him. They did not seem to be aware of it, but they moved, like iron filings rearranging themselves around a powerful magnet. He led me to the center of the floor and stopped. He pulled me close. One hand held mine. The other settled on the small of my back. His touch was not polite. It was possessive. It was an anchor, and it burned right through the silk of my dress. We began to move when he was, unsurprisingly, an impeccable dancer. He led with an effortless, undeniable authority, and my body, trained in finance and combat, not in ballrooms, simply followed. We danced in silence for a full minute. I was hyper-aware of everything, the pressure of his palm on my back, the way his dark eyes scanned the room over my shoulder, alert and assessing, and the sheer physical power of him, held in perfect leashed control. Then he spoke, his mouth close to my ear. "You look like a woman who is tired of playing games," he murmured. My heart leaped. "I do not know what you mean," I said, my voice stiff. "Yes, you do," he countered, not unkindly. "You play with numbers, you play with men's careers, you win, but you are bored, and you are lonely." "You do not know me, I hissed, pulling back. He did not let me. His hand on my back held me firm. "I know enough. I know you are the most dangerous person in this room, Isabella." He paused. "Besides me." He spun me slowly, a graceful turn that left me slightly breathless. "The reason I asked you to dance," he continued, his voice losing its faint trace of amusement, becoming flat and serious, "is not because I am looking for a wife. It is because I have a problem." He pulled me back, his eyes locking onto mine. The coldness in them was absolute. "It is a very big problem, involving a great deal of money and some very untrustworthy people. And I have been told," he finished, leaning in so close I could feel the warmth of his breath on my cheek, "that you're the only one in this city who can fix it." The music swelled and then faded, ending. But he did not let me go. He held me there, in the middle of the dance floor, in the middle of my best friend's wedding reception, surrounded by flowers and laughter. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that my old life, the one of predictable risk and calculated returns, was over. I had just been drafted into a war I did not understand, by a man who did not take no for an answer. The invitation to dance was not an invitation at all. It was the beginning. The music stopped. The other couples around us broke apart, clapping politely for the quartet, but Vincent DeMarco did not release me. His hand was still a brand on my back, his eyes still holding mine captive. "A problem," I repeated, my voice a dry rasp. "You have a problem." "And you," he said softly, "are the solution." My boardroom instinct screamed at me. This was a hostile negotiation, and I was unarmed. "I am a financial strategist," I said, trying to regain my footing, to pull my professional armor back around me. "I optimize portfolios. I run risk analysis. I do not fix problems for people like you." "People like me," he repeated. There was no offense in his tone. It was a simple statement of fact. People who do not have the luxury of calling the police when a competitor tries to destroy them. He finally let me go, taking a small step back. The absence of his touch left my skin cold, and I was angry at myself for noticing. "You are mistaken," and I said, turning to walk away. My legs felt unsteady. "I am leaving." $3.2 million, not," his voice said, stopping me cold. I turned back slowly. "What?" That was the bonus you received last quarter, after tax, he said, his voice still low and conversational. For the Avery deal. You personally cost him his controlling interest, and you did it using a loophole in his own bylaws that your team missed 3 times. It was brilliant, it was ruthless, and no one outside that room knows how you did it, except me. He knew the exact figure. That number was buried in my private accounts, shielded by layers of legal firewalls. I felt sick. My fear was being replaced by a cold, sharp dread. He had not just done his research, he had access. I want that mind, he said, taking a step toward me. That ruthlessness, working for me. I am not for hire, I spat, though the words sounded weak, even to me. This is not a job offer, Isabella. His voice was flat, all trace of ballroom charm gone. This is a request from the groom's family. It would be impolite to refuse. The threat was unspoken, but it hung in the air, heavier than the scent of the lilies. He looked past me, toward the exit. My car is waiting at the main entrance. I will see you in 5 minutes. We can discuss the details. He did not wait for an answer. He did not look at me again. He simply turned and walked away, melting back into the crowd of tuxedos, leaving me standing alone in the center of the dance floor, my heart hammering a frantic, terrified rhythm against my ribs. I should have gone to Maria. I should have grabbed her, right then, and told her we had to leave, that her new family was not just old New York, but something dark and dangerous. But I looked over at her. She was laughing, her face alight, feeding her new husband a piece of the towering, 7-tiered wedding cake. She looked happy, truly, blissfully happy. How could I destroy that? How could I tell her the man I just danced with, her new cousin by marriage, was a monster? And the other part of me, the dark, ambitious part that had clawed its way to the top of Wall Street, was whispering. He knew about Avery. He knew the number. What kind of power is that? I felt the familiar, cold pull of an impossible challenge. It was the same electric feeling I got before a major trade, the adrenaline rush of high stakes. This was just another negotiation, I told myself. The biggest, most dangerous one of my life. I did not go back to my table. I did not get my purse. I walked out of the ballroom, past the unsmiling guards who did not meet my eyes. I took the gilded elevator down to the lobby, my reflection in the polished brass a pale, wide-eyed stranger. The car was there, just as he said. A black sedan, so dark and polished it seemed to absorb the city lights. It was not a limousine. It was something severe and understated. It looked heavy, armored. A man I had not seen before got out and opened the back door for me without a word. I got in. The interior was silent, the sound of Fifth Avenue vanishing as if a switch had been thrown. The luxury was stark. Black leather, dark wood, no distractions. Vincent was sitting opposite me, in a captain's chair. In the close confines of the car, he seemed even larger, his presence dominating the small space. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice impressively steady. "To my office, so," he said, not looking at me. He was studying a thin file on his lap. The office was not an office. We drove for 20 minutes downtown to a neighborhood of old warehouses and quiet, dark streets. The car slipped into an underground garage beneath a nondescript brick building. We went up in a private freight elevator, one operated by a key he produced from his pocket. It opened directly into a sprawling penthouse. It was not what I expected. No gaudy gold or red velvet. It was stark, modern, and minimalist. Glass walls on 3 sides showed the city glittering below us, a silent, conquered territory. The furniture was sparse, expensive, and functional, but the atmosphere was the same as the ballroom, tense, watched. A man was waiting for us. He looked older than Vincent, with the same dark eyes and hard jaw, but coarser, where Vincent was a panther, sleek and controlled. This man was a bulldog, all muscle and simmering aggression, and he was nursing a drink, his suit jacket off, revealing a shoulder holster strapped against his white shirt. "This is her," the man asked Vincent us. His voice a gravelly rumble. He looked at me with open skepticism. "She looks like she belongs on a magazine cover. Vince, not in this." "Leo," Vincent said, his voice quiet but carrying an edge that made the other man straighten up instantly. "This is Isabella Reynolds. This is my brother, Leo." Leo DeMarco. I recognized his name, too. The press called him the enforcer, the muscle. "She is the one who's going to find our ghost," Vincent said. Leo snorted but said nothing more. He just watched me, his distrust a palpable thing. Vincent walked to his desk, a massive slab of dark wood, and opened a laptop. "Sit." It was a command. I sat. For the next 2 hours, they laid it out. Their legitimate businesses, shipping, waste management, construction, all cash heavy, all meticulously cleaned through a complex, international web of shell corporations. Someone, somewhere, was bleeding them. Not in large, obvious amounts. It was a death by 1,000 cuts. Small, untraceable wire transfers, payroll discrepancies, ghost employees, shipping manifests that did not match inventory. Millions of dollars, vanishing every month. "We think it is the Callahans," Leo said, pacing the room, his energy too big and violent for the space. "An old debt, their father and ours. They are trying to make a move. They think we are weak." "Leo thinks everyone is the Callahans," Vincent said, his eyes on the screen. He sounded tired. "Our internal people cannot find the source. They say the system is clean, that these are just acceptable losses. There is no such thing as an acceptable loss." "It is not clean," I said. Both men looked at me. I had not spoken in an hour. I had just been reading, watching the data flow across the screen. My fear, the adrenaline, it had all faded. It was replaced by a cold, sharp focus. This, I knew. This was my world. Numbers, patterns, deceit. "It is not clean at all," I repeated, standing up and walking to the desk. "You are looking for a leak. You should be looking for a door." I pointed to a line of code in their proprietary accounting software. "Your security is old. This is a backdoor, built in probably 5 years ago. They are not bleeding you. They are rerouting your entire cash flow through a series of offshore nodes." I started typing, my fingers flying across the keys. The boardroom was back. I was in control. "They are masking it with these small, stupid ghost employee transfers. That is a distraction. They want you looking for rats in the warehouse, but the wolf is in your server room." I brought up a new screen, a complex map of transactions. "They are not just stealing. They are replacing your money with counterfeit credit. They are building a debt bomb inside your own company. In 3 months, maybe 4, your entire legitimate operation will be technically insolvent. They will own you. And you will not even know it until they flip the switch." The room was silent. Leo had stopped pacing. His face was pale. Vincent was watching me, his dark eyes no longer cold, but burning with a strange, intense light. "My father," Vincent said, his voice very low, "was killed by a traitor, a man he trusted with his finances. He bled him dry for 2 years, then sold him to his enemies for nothing. I watched my father die, right on the steps of our home. I was 15. I will not let that happen again." The vulnerability in his voice was a sudden, shocking crack in his armor, a glimpse of the man beneath the boss. It hit me harder than his threats. He was not just a monster. He was a son, shaped by a tragedy I could not imagine, a man bearing a weight that would crush a normal person. "Can you find them?" he asked. "I can," I said. My voice was firm. "Can you stop them?" I looked at the data, the complex, beautiful, lethal web of numbers. This was not a problem. This was a masterpiece of financial warfare. "Yes," I said. Just as I said it, Vincent's phone vibrated on the desk, a short, sharp buzz. He picked it up. His face, which had softened for that brief moment, turned back to stone. "Where?" he said. He listened. "Is he alive?" He listened again. "No. Leave him. I'm on my way." He hung up and looked at Leo. "They found Marco at the shipyard." Leo swore, a violent, ugly word. The Callahans. Maybe. Vincent grabbed his suit jacket. He looked at me. You should go, I said, my voice small. The moment was broken. The real world had just smashed through the glass walls. No, Vincent said. You come with me. What? No, I am not. I am not part of that. I am a consultant. You are now, he said, his voice final. You are the one who sees the patterns. I want your eyes on this. You need to see the stakes. You need to see what happens when we lose. He did not wait. He just walked to the elevator. Leo was right behind him. I stood there for a second, my blood roaring in my ears. I could stay. I could call a cab. I could run. I could scream. But I knew I would not. I followed him into the elevator. The shipyard was a landscape of giants, all sleeping cranes and mountains of containers. It was cold, the wind coming off the water carrying the smell of salt and diesel. We stopped near a dark, quiet warehouse. 2 of the unsmiling guards from the wedding were there, their presence here even more menacing. Vincent got out. He looked at me. Wait here. But I could not. I was horrified, but my curiosity was a sickness, a compulsion. I opened the door and followed him, staying in the shadows. They had not cordoned it off. There were no police. This was their law. A man was on the ground. He was not bloody. He was just still. His eyes were open, staring at the corrugated metal roof. He had been a big man, but now he just looked small and broken. Marco, Leo whispered. He looked sick. Vincent crouched by the body. He showed no emotion. He was a doctor, studying a symptom. No bullet, no knife, he said. I saw it, around the man's neck, a thin, dark line. A garrote, I heard myself say. My voice sounded thin in the cold air. Vincent looked up at me, surprised I had followed. It is clean, I said, my voice shaking but my mind racing. Professional, too clean for a message from a rival. Rivals want to send messages. They are loud. This, I pointed to the man. This is an execution. This is an internal cleaning. This is your ghost. He's not just in your server, he's in your house. Vincent stood up slowly. He looked at me for a long, unreadable time. The shadows playing across his hard face. He had brought me here to scare me, to show me the stakes. But something else had happened. I had shown him I was not just a numbers girl. I could see the patterns here, too. He stepped toward me, closing the distance between us. He raised his hand, and I flinched. A small, involuntary movement that I hated. He stopped. His hand hovered, then gently. He touched my cheek. His thumb brushed just under my eye. His touch was rough, calloused from things I did not want to know about, but surprisingly warm. You are not like them, Isabella, he whispered, his voice raw. The women in my world, they look away. You look closer. I was shaking. I was standing in the dark, next to a dead man, being touched by a killer, and the terrifying truth, the one that would haunt me, was that I was not running. I was not screaming. I was not. A part of me, the part that had been asleep for 2 long years, the part that craved the edge, the part that loved to win, was finally, terribly, awake. I was in a world of monsters, and I was terrified I might be becoming one. Get me back to that laptop, I said, my voice a low, unsteady thing. I will find him. His words hung in the cold, diesel-scented air. I will find him. Vincent stared at me, his face a mask of shadows and calculation. The ride back from the shipyard was silent, a compressed, humming quiet that was louder than any scream. Leo drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. He was a bomb waiting for a fuse. Vincent sat beside me in the back, but he was not with me. His gaze was distant, fixed on the passing, blurred lights of the city. He was processing. He was grieving. And he was planning. I, on the other hand, was vibrating. The sight of the dead man, Marco, had been horrific, a cold, stark image of finality. But my fear had been burned away by the adrenaline of the chase. I had been right. It was an inside job. The ghost was real. And now, I was the one who had to catch him. We did not use the freight elevator. We went through the main garage, past 2 more guards who materialized from the shadows, their eyes sweeping over us before nodding at Vincent. We went up in the passenger elevator, the one with the polished wood and the soft, classical music. The contrast between that civilized box and the scene we had just left was nauseating. The penthouse was exactly as we had left it. The laptop was open on the desk, the city lights a silent, glittering audience. The half-full glass of whiskey Leo had been drinking was still on the side table. "Coffee," Vincent said to the air. A moment later, one of the guards who had followed us up stepped forward, nodded, and disappeared toward the kitchen. Leo began to pace, a caged bull, slamming his fist into his open palm. "Internal?" He said, "internal. Who has the stomach for that? Who has the nerve?" His voice was a raw wound. "Marco was with us for 20 years. 20 years. He was at my confirmation. Who does this?" "The one who has been stealing from us," Vincent said. He had taken off his jacket. His white shirt was stark against the darkness. He looked exhausted. The skin stretched taut over the hard bones of his face. He looked at me. "You said he is in our house. Show me." This was it. The boardroom was gone. This was the war room. I sat down at his desk, in his chair. It was large, leather, and still held a faint warmth. I pulled the laptop toward me. The numbers, the strings of code, they felt like old friends. They were logical. They did not lie. They did not murder. They simply were. "Last time, I was looking for a destination," I said, my voice crisp. My hands were perfectly steady. "Now I am looking for an origin. The back door you found. It was planted when—" "5 years ago, you said," Vincent supplied. "Exactly. 5 years ago. Who had this level of access to your core systems? Then who was trusted?" Everyone was trusted," Leo spat. "Then, before—" "That is not helpful," I said, not looking up. "I need names, your IT hierarchy." "We do not have an IT hierarchy," Vincent said, standing behind me. I could feel his presence, a weight at my back. "We have a man, Sal. He's been with us since my father. He built this system." "Then Sal is your ghost," I said flatly. "No," Vincent said, his voice absolute. "Sal is family. He would sooner cut off his own hands." "Everyone is family until they are not," I countered, my eyes scanning the lines of code. "The back door is too sophisticated for a simple accountant. It is elegant. It was made by someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Someone who knew your architecture." I kept digging, peeling back layers of security protocols that were 5 years old, obsolete. He covered his tracks, but he was arrogant. He did not think anyone would ever look this deep. I found it, a kernel modification. It was beautiful. It siphoned 1% of every single cash transaction, rerouting it before it ever hit the main ledger. The ghost employees, the missing inventory. That was all smoke. This was the fire. "He used an IP address from inside this building," I said, "on a secure line, right here, in this penthouse." Leo stopped pacing. That is impossible. Only me, Vince, and Sal use this office. And Sal has not been here in a week. He is in Miami. My blood ran cold. I looked at the timestamp of the last modification, the one that escalated the withdrawals, the one that started the debt bomb. It was 3 days ago. "When did Sal leave for Miami?" I asked. "A week ago," Vincent said. 3 days ago, I said, my voice quiet. "Your ghost was in this room. He used Sal's primary login credentials, but he routed it through a proxy to make it look like it was coming from Sal's home computer, but the proxy was sloppy. He did not count on someone tracing the origin IP. It came from here." I looked up, first at Leo. His face was a mask of confusion and rage, then at Vincent. Vincent had not moved. He was staring at the wall, at a portrait of a stern-looking older man, his father. "Leo," Vincent said, his voice dangerously soft, Where were you 3 days ago?" "What?" Leo exploded. "You are asking me, you are taking the word of this woman over me, your brother." "She is not making accusations," Vincent said, turning to face him. "She is reading the data. The data says someone was in this room. Sal is in Miami. I was in Chicago. Where were you?" "Leo." "I was here," Leo roared. "I am always here. I am the one holding this family together while you are out playing businessman." "So you were here," I said, my fingers tracing the data stream, "and you were logged in as Sal." "I did not." Leo stormed toward the desk. I flinched, but he was not looking at me. He was glaring at his brother. "You believe her. She has been here for one night. I have been with you since the day you were born. I bled for you. I took a bullet for you. Vince. Remember that, in the arm from the Callahans." "The Callahans," I repeated. My fingers froze on the keyboard. "The money. It is not going to them." "What do you mean?" Vincent asked, his eyes never leaving his brother. "I mean, I found the final account, the one he built the debt bomb for," I said. I typed, bringing up a screen, "a bank in the Cayman Islands, an account with a simple 6-digit number. It is not in the name of the Callahan family. It is a shell corporation. LRD Enterprises." Leo's face went white. "LRD," Vincent whispered. His voice was hollow. "Leo, Robert DeMarco." It was his middle name. The silence in the room was absolute. It was the silence of the shipyard, the silence of death. Leo looked from me to Vincent. The rage was gone, replaced by a cold, desperate cunning. "She faked it. She is the ghost. Vince. She came in here. She saw the system, and she faked it to frame me. She is working for the Callahans." "She has been here for 3 hours," Vincent said, his voice dead. "The back door is 5 years old." "She is good. I will give you that." Leo was backing away slowly, his hand moving toward the shoulder holster he still wore. "She saw me. She saw I was the strong one, and she decided to take me out, to get to you. She's playing you, brother, just like she played Avery." "Stop talking, Leo," Vincent said. "No, you stop listening to her and listen to me, your family," Leo shouted. "She is an outsider. You brought her into our house. You showed her our books. Father would be spinning in his grave. You are weak, Vince. You were always weak. You were weak when Father died, and you are weak now." "Father died because of a traitor," Vincent said, taking a step toward him. "Father died because he was sloppy, because he trusted the wrong people, just like you are doing now." "Was Marco sloppy, Leo?" I asked, my voice cutting through their argument. Leo froze. He turned to look at me, his eyes full of a pure, cold hatred that made my stomach clench. "You," he breathed. "This is all you." "You killed him," I stated. "He was getting too close. He was loyal. He was not sloppy. But he was old-fashioned. He was looking at the paper manifests, not the digital ones. He found the discrepancy. He found you." "Yo, he should have kept his mouth shut," Leo snarled. "He was a dog. I put him down." The admission hung in the air, brutal and irreversible. Vincent closed his eyes. For 1 second, he looked like a man being torn in two. When he opened them, the brother was gone. Only the boss remained. "Leo," he said, his voice flat. It happened fast. Leo was not an idiot. He knew he was caught. He was not going to talk. He was going to act. He did not go for Vincent. He went for me. He lunged across the desk, scattering papers, his face a mask of primal rage. "You bitch!" he screamed. I threw myself backward in the chair, but he was too fast. He grabbed the front of my dress, hauling me to my feet. Vincent moved, a blur of black. Tackling his brother around the waist, they crashed into the wall, a sickening thud of bodies hitting plaster. It was not a fight. It was a brawl. It was two brothers, two sides of the same violent coin, trying to destroy each other. Leo was stronger, fueled by rage and betrayal. He landed a punch that sent Vincent staggering. Leo grabbed the heavy glass whiskey tumbler from the table and raised it. I screamed. I had to do something. I was not a fighter. I was a strategist. "It is gone, Leo!" I yelled, my voice shrill with panic. "The money, it is gone!" Leo paused, his arm in midair. He looked at me, his chest heaving. "What?" "The account!" I shouted, desperate. The second I found it, I put a lock on it, I rerouted the access. "It is all gone, 5 years of work. Gone, you have nothing." It was a lie, a complete, total fabrication. I could not do that, not in 30 seconds, but he did not know that. His face crumpled. The rage faltered, replaced by a look of stunned disbelief. You are lying." "Am I?" I said, my voice gaining strength. "I am the one who cost Thomas Avery his company in 1 afternoon? You think I cannot erase yours?" That 1 second of doubt, it was all Vincent needed. Vincent did not punch. He moved inside Leo's guard, a precise, brutal series of strikes to the throat and the ribs. Leo choked, the glass falling from his hand and shattering on the floor. Vincent spun him around, pinning his arm behind his back in a way that had to be agony. Leo screamed, a high, thin sound. Vincent had his gun out. I had not even seen him draw it. It was pressed to the base of his brother's skull. The penthouse was silent again, save for Leo's labored, painful breathing. "Vince!" Leo choked out, his voice a wet rasp. "Vince, please. He was weak. Our father, he was weak. I did this for us, for the family, to make us strong again." Vincent's hand was shaking. The gun trembled against his brother's head. He was looking at me, his face a wreck of anguish. The boss was gone again. The 15-year-old boy who watched his father die was here, and he was being asked to kill his own brother. I knew, in that moment, that this was the real decision, not his, mine. If I ran, he would fall apart, the family would collapse, the Callahans or someone else would sweep in and kill him. If I stayed, I was choosing this. I was choosing this life, this violence, this man. My past, my job, my quiet, lonely apartment, it all seemed like a black and white movie from 100 years ago. This was real, the smell of sweat and fear and shattered glass. The man in front of me, holding his brother's life in his hand, looking at me for an answer. I straightened my torn dress. I walked, my legs shaking, to the desk. I picked up the internal phone. My fingers were numb. Vincent watched me, his eyes wide, uncomprehending. I pressed the button for security. A voice answered, "Yes." I looked at Vincent. I looked at his shaking hand. I made my choice. "There is a problem in the penthouse," I said, my voice as cold and steady as steel. "It requires immediate containment. Send the cleanup crew, and send for a doctor." I hung up the phone. I turned to Vincent. He was still staring at me, but the shaking had stopped. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes had hardened. He understood. I was not leaving. I was not running. I was handling it. He took his finger off the trigger. He lowered the gun. "Don't get him out of my sight," Vincent said to the air, his voice a low, dead monotone. "He's not my brother. He does not exist." He shoved Leo away from him. Leo collapsed to the floor, sobbing. The elevator chimed. The guards entered, their faces impassive. They saw the scene. They saw Leo on the floor. They saw Vincent with the gun. They saw me by the desk. And they did not ask a single question. They simply walked over, lifted Leo to his feet, and began to drag him out. Leo cried, reaching back. "Vince, do not lie." The door closed. He was gone. The sun was starting to rise, casting a sick, pale gray light into the room. The glittering city of the night was gone, replaced by the hard, unforgiving lines of the morning. Vincent slowly walked to the wall of windows, his back to me. He rested his forehead against the glass. His shoulders were shaking. He still had the gun in his hand. I did not go to him. I did not touch him. I had made my choice. I had helped him win. I had helped him survive. But I had also helped him destroy his own family. I looked at my hands. They were steady. I was not a woman at a wedding. I was not a financial analyst. I did not know what I was. But I knew I could not go back. I had crossed a line, and the only way was forward, deeper into the darkness. I had just saved his life, and in doing so, I had just sealed my own fate. The gray light of dawn filled the room, merciless and cold. It illuminated the wreckage. The shattered whiskey glass was a spray of crystals on the dark wood floor. Papers were scattered, a chair was overturned, and in the center of it all, Vincent stood, his back to me, his shoulders shaking in the silent, agonizing rhythm of a grief he could not show and could not hold. The gun was still in his hand, hanging by his side, a dead weight. The penthouse was silent. The city, normally a roar of traffic and life, was a distant hum, muted by the thick glass. The guards were gone. Leo was gone. The cleanup crew, the doctor, they had come and gone with a terrifying, silent efficiency. There was no blood. There were no tears. There was just the gaping, raw wound of what had happened. My brother. He had said it. He had killed him. I stood by the desk, my silk dress torn at the shoulder where Leo had grabbed me. The fabric felt foreign, a costume from a different life, a different woman. That woman had worried about portfolios and lonely evenings. This woman had just ordered the disposal of her lover's brother. Lover, no, he was not my lover. It was my employer, my captor, my accomplice. He did not touch me. I did not touch him. We were two columns, holding up the roof of a world that had just collapsed. I watched the hard, straight line of his back. I was waiting. I did not know what for. For him to scream, for him to break, for him to turn and kill me, the witness, the catalyst. My adrenaline was gone, drained away by the pale morning light, leaving behind a cold, heavy residue. I was not scared. I was empty. I had made a choice that had no reversal. I had stepped off the map of my old life. Finally, after an eternity, he turned. His face was not the face of the boss. It was not the face of the man who had intimidated me at the wedding. It was the face of that 15-year-old boy, left alone on the steps, watching his father bleed. It was a face carved from pure, solidified anguish. His eyes were hollow, black holes of loss. He raised the hand that held the gun. He looked at it, as if he did not recognize it. Slowly, deliberately, he placed it on the desk between us. The sound of the heavy metal meeting the wood was a final, definitive click, like a lock turning in a cell door. "You," he said. His voice was not a voice. It was a rasp, gravel and ash. "Me," I acknowledged. I would not apologize. I would not show weakness. I had done what was necessary. He walked toward me, his movements slow, unsteady. I did not flinch. I did not move. I held my ground. He was a broken, dangerous animal, and I would not show him my throat. He stopped, barely an inch away. I had to tilt my head back to look at him. He was searching my face, his dark eyes desperate, looking for something, an answer, absolution, condemnation. "He was my brother," he whispered. "He was a traitor," I said, my voice as cold and steady as the glass he stood against. "He killed Marco. He would have killed you, and then he would have killed me. You know this." You did not even hesitate," he said, a note of awe in his wrecked voice. "You made the call. You cleaned it up." "You were hesitating," I countered. "In your world, hesitation is death. I did not want to die." "I could not," he whispered, and the admission was a raw, gaping wound. "He was my blood. I could not—" "He was not anymore." He raised a hand, the one that was not shaking. He reached out, not to my face, but to the torn silk of my dress. He touched the ruined fabric, his fingers tracing the tear. "He did you this." "It does not matter," I said. "It matters," he insisted. His thumb brushed the skin of my shoulder, and a jolt, entirely unwanted, shot through me. It was not arousal. It was connection, a dark, terrible, and unbreakable link forged in violence. He had seen my mind. I had just seen his soul. "He knew where I lived," I said, the practical, cold thought cutting through the moment. "Apartment 42B. He said it, if he knew. Who else knows his associates, the Callahans he was trying to frame?" Vincent's focus snapped back. The grief receded, replaced by the familiar, cold calculation. He was the boss again. You cannot go home. It was not a question. It was a fact. I know. You cannot go back to your job. I know. My world, this world, he said, gesturing around the wrecked room. It will swallow you, Isabella. It will eat you alive. It already has, I said. The question is, do I let it or do I learn to eat back? A strange light flickered in his dead eyes, a spark of something I had seen on the dance floor. Respect. You are not like them, he murmured again. You look closer. What now, Vincent? I asked. My old life was gone. My apartment, my 8-figure portfolio, my best friend, Maria. My God, Maria! The thought of her, so happy in her white dress, hit me like a physical blow. I had just participated in the destruction of her new family. I had been at her wedding less than 12 hours. Vincent saw the change in my expression. You cannot tell her. Ever. She is my best friend. And her husband is my cousin, he said, his voice hard. She chose this family. Now, so have you. You will lie to her, or you will get her killed, and me, and yourself. Those are the choices. The walls were closing in. This was the true cost, not the violence, not the fear, the isolation, the lies I would have to build, layer upon layer, until I was buried underneath them. I made my decision. I had made it when I picked up the phone. This was just the paperwork. I need a shower, I said, and clothes, and a laptop, a clean one. He looked at me for a long moment, then he nodded. I have a place. No one knows about it. Not even Leo did. The next few days were a blur of disorientation. Vincent took me from the penthouse through a series of underground tunnels I never knew existed, to a different car, and to a different building. It was an apartment high over a central park, anonymous and sterile, all white walls and brushed steel. It was a beautiful, luxurious prison. He left me there with 2 guards posted outside the door, men who did not speak, who did not look at me. He gave me a new phone, a new laptop, and a closet full of clothes that had appeared, as if by magic, in my new size. He thought of everything. He was gone for 2 days. I was alone with my thoughts, the silence, and the view of the park. I did not sleep. I analyzed. I replayed the code. I replayed the fight. I saw Leo's face as he lunged at me. I saw Vincent's face as he held the gun. I was learning to master this. I had to. I was a strategist. This was a new game, with new rules. Rule 1, trust no one, not even Vincent. He was bound to me by trauma, by gratitude, but he was still the boss. He was still a man who had been raised in this. Rule 2, information is power. I did not have muscle. I did not have a gun. I had my mind. I had to know everything. Rule 3, protect myself. I was an asset to him now, but assets can become liabilities. I had to make myself indispensable. I called Maria. The lie was thick and sour in my mouth. Izzy! Oh my God, where did you go? You just disappeared from the wedding. Her voice was bright, happy, and laced with concern. Maria, I said, forcing a lightness into my tone I did not feel. I am so sorry. It was a work emergency, a massive one. A server in Zurich crashed. I had to fly out right then. What? From the wedding? You could not even say goodbye. I know. It was terrible. I feel awful. But it was, billions of dollars on the line. I hated myself. Oh, Izzy, you and your work. She sighed, but she believed me. Well, you missed an amazing brunch, but we are back. Are you okay? You sound tired. I'm fine, I said, my voice a dead thing. Just tired. I will make it up to you. I promise. I love you. Love you too. Call me when you are back in the States. I hung up and my hand was shaking. I had just lied. I had just severed the last anchor to my old life. Isabella Reynolds, my friend, was gone. When Vincent returned, he looked older. The last 2 days had aged him 5 years. He carried the weight of his decision, of his brother's fate, like a physical shroud. He found me on the balcony, looking down at the park. "It is done, Ma," he said. I did not have to ask what Leo. He is gone. He will not be a problem again. He would not say he killed him. He would not say he exiled him. He just said gone. "And the Callahans?" I asked. "They are quiet, too quiet. They are waiting. They know something is broken." "Good," I said. "Let them wait. We are vulnerable. We need to consolidate." He looked at me. I had not turned around. "I have handled the books," I said, gesturing to the laptop inside. "I have reversed the debt bomb. I have clawed back almost 60% of the money Leo stole. The rest is gone, but the companies are solvent again." 60%, Mahi said, impressed. "In 2 days." "It is what I do," I said. I turned to face him. "Now we talk about my position." "Your position?" "I am not your guest. I am not your prisoner. I am not your mistress, waiting in a safe house," I said, my voice flat. "I will not be your pet accountant, hidden away." "What do you want, Isabella?" he asked. "I want what I had, power, control, but I want it here, with you." "This is not a boardroom," he warned. "I know it is a battlefield," I said, "and you just lost your second in command. You are bleeding. You are exposed. You need someone you can trust, someone who is not your blood, someone who has no loyalty to your father's old ways. You need me." He stepped closer, his shadow falling over me. And what do I get? You get the person who saw the ghost you missed for 5 years. You get the person who just saved your entire organization. You get the person who will see the next Leo and the next before they can put a knife in your back. "And what do you get?" he asked, his voice low. "I get to live," I said simply. "I get to be the one who sees it coming. I get to be the one holding the strings, because I am done being a victim. I am done being lonely in a corner. I am done being underestimated." He looked at me, his dark eyes searching mine. The attraction between us was still there, a dark, simmering current beneath the ice of our new reality. It was not love. It was something far more dangerous. It was necessity. It was mutual understanding. "You will be my advisor," he said. "You will sit at my right hand. You will see everything. You will answer to no one, except me." "Then we have a deal," I said. He sealed it, not with a handshake, but with a touch. He cupped my face, his hands rough, his gaze intense. "This life, Isabella, it will cost you everything you were." "I know," I whispered, as he leaned in. "I already paid." His words hung in the air of the safe house, a final, unbreakable contract. I had paid. I did not realize how much I had truly bought until the weeks that followed. My old life did not just fade, I erased it. I liquidated my assets, routing them through the same complex, untraceable channels I had built for Vincent. I resigned from my job, citing a family emergency that was, in its own dark way, the truth. Isabella Reynolds, the Wall Street shark, went on a permanent, unexplained sabbatical. She vanished. In her place, Izzy, the advisor, was born. We did not stay in the sterile white apartment. We moved back into the penthouse, the one where Leo had tried to kill me. Vincent, in a move that I understood was both strategic and symbolic, had it gutted, the dark, heavy wood, the oppressive furniture, the portrait of his father. All of it was ripped out, exorcised. It was rebuilt with glass, brushed steel, and open space. It was no longer his father's fortress. It was our war room. My life, once defined by quarterly reports and lonely glasses of whiskey, was now a series of quiet meetings with hard-eyed men who smelled of gunmetal and expensive cologne. At first, they looked at me with open, undisguised contempt. I was an outsider, a woman, a civilian. That lasted for one meeting. A capo named Salvi, a man with a face like a roadmap of old scars, dismissed one of my projections. He had called me sweetheart and told me to stick to the numbers. Vincent, who had been sitting silently at the head of the table, did not raise his voice. He simply placed his hand on the table. "Salvi," he said, his voice a low, cold hum. "She is my voice. Her word is my word. If you ever disrespect her again, you are disrespecting me. And you know what happens next." The contempt vanished. It was replaced by a cold, watchful fear. And that fear, I learned, was a tool, just like my laptop. I did not just manage the finances, I managed the strategy. The Callahans, emboldened by the rumors of internal strife, thinking us weak after Leo's retirement, tried to make their move. They expected a street war, a messy, bloody conflict of bullets and car bombs. They were dinosaurs. I did not give them a war. I gave them a market crash. I had Vincent's men find their leverage, their legitimate investments, their hidden portfolios, and then, in one 72-hour period of relentless surgical trading, I bled them dry. I did to them exactly what I had done to Thomas Avery, but on a scale that was exponentially larger. It was clean. It was silent. It was devastating. They were ruined before they even knew who was attacking them. Vincent handled the other side, the side I did not look at too closely, the side that involved quiet cars in the night and men who did not come home. Together. We were a perfect, terrifying weapon. He was the hammer. I was the scalpel. We were stable. We were powerful. And for the first time in my life, I was not lonely. We were on the balcony. It had become our place. It was late, maybe 3 a.m. The city sprawled before us, a silent, conquered kingdom of light. We had just finished a brutal negotiation with the Chicago outfit, one that I had handled entirely on my own, securing us 10% of their shipping routes without a single shot fired. "We are stable," I said, sipping a whiskey. I drank it neat now. "Only the best." "We are," he agreed. He stood beside me, not touching, but his presence was a warmth I had come to rely on, a solid wall at my back. His suit jacket was off, his sleeves rolled up. He looked tired, but he looked at peace. The silence stretched, comfortable, familiar. In 6 months, we had forged an intimacy that went far beyond the physical. We had not become lovers, not in the traditional sense. Our bond was forged in something hotter, in trauma, in strategy, in shared survival. He had seen my mind, and I had seen his soul at its breaking point. "You never told me," I said, looking not at him, but at the distant, dark shape of the park. "Told you what?" "That night, at the wedding," I turned to face him. The breeze was cool, pulling at a strand of my hair. "You knew who I was. You knew my address, my job, my drink. You knew about Avery. I understand why you needed someone, but you never told me why you chose me." He was silent for a long time, watching me. "I could have hired any analyst," I pressed. "I could have been a consultant you kept in a box. Why pull me in? Why so dramatic? And why?" I asked, the question that had been a tiny, buried thorn for half a year. "Why did you call me wife?" Vincent turned to the view, his hands resting on the cold stone of the balcony. "The surveillance started 8 months before the wedding." My breath caught. 8 months. "I knew Leo was a problem," he said, his voice low, matching the hum of the city. "I knew there was rot in my family. I did not know how deep, but I knew. I looked at what my father built, this thing of ours. It was killing us. It was archaic. All blood and honor and stupid, messy violence. It got him killed. It was getting me killed. It was forcing me to be a man I hated." He looked at me, his dark eyes intense, stripped bare of all artifice. I knew I could not fix it alone. I needed a partner, someone who was not part of this, someone who did not think blood was an answer. I needed someone smart, but more than that, I needed someone cold, colder than me. "So you looked for an analyst, ain't might," I said. "No," he said, a faint smile touching his lips. "I looked for a killer, a different kind, and I found you, the Avery deal. I read the private reports. I read what they said about you in those closed-door meetings. A shark. Ruthless? No emotion, just the kill. I saw the woman who had been betrayed by a man, and instead of breaking, she built an empire and took him apart, piece by piece. I felt exposed, more than I had that night on the dance floor. He was not talking about my work, he was talking about me. I watched you for months, he continued. I saw you at your desk, working until midnight. I saw you in boardrooms, tearing down men twice your age. I saw you sitting alone in restaurants, reading a book, a wall of ice around you. I saw the most brilliant, powerful, and lonely woman I had ever met. I saw someone who was just like me, trapped, but powerful. You did not know me, I whispered. I knew you, he insisted, his voice softening. I knew the part that mattered, the part that was steel. I knew you were the only one who could sit at my side, the only one who would understand, the only one who would have the strength to do what I could not, to see the hard truth. Like Leo, I breathed. Like Leo, he confirmed. And the wedding. He actually smiled, a faint, sad smile that transformed his hard face. That was an accident. I did not know you were Maria's friend until 2 days before. When I found out, I knew it was fate. I went there to meet you. I had a speech planned, a business proposal, very formal. But you did not give it, I said. No, I saw you, sitting in that corner in that green silk dress. You looked so beautiful and so lost, the same way I felt. Every single day, surrounded by my own people, and I just walked over. All my plans, all my strategies, they just vanished, and I said the stupidest, most honest thing I have ever said. Wife, I whispered. The word, which had been a threat, a mystery, now felt like something else entirely. Whoa, it was what I was looking for, so he said, his voice rough with an emotion I had never heard from him. Not an employee, not an advisor, a partner, a queen. I saw the queen, sitting all alone in the dark, and I said it. He stepped closer, cupping my face. His hands were calloused, but they were warm. I brought you into this. Isabella, I pulled you into the darkness, and I am not sorry for it, because you did not just save my business. You saved me. That night, with Leo, I was broken. I was ready to end it. You gave me a reason. He was right. I had saved him. I had been his steel when he faltered. And he, in turn, had saved me. He had taken the lonely, hollow woman from the wedding and given her a purpose. He had given her a kingdom. You're not fighting for power, are you? I asked, already knowing the answer. You are fighting to change it, to make it better. I am fighting for a future, Wentz, he said, a future where my children do not have to watch their father die on the steps, a future where this, he swept his hand toward the city, is a legitimate empire, not a shadow. I want to build something that lasts, but I cannot do it without you. You will not have to, I said. The chill of the morning air was on my skin, but I was not cold. He leaned in, and this time, there was no violence. There was no trauma. It was just a man and a woman, finally seeing each other for what they were. He kissed me. It was not a kiss of fire and passion. It was a kiss of promise. It was slow and deep and absolute. It was the sealing of a final, unbreakable deal. It was a beginning. When he pulled back, he kept his forehead pressed to mine. He took my hand, lacing his fingers with mine. We stood there on the balcony, looking out at the city, our city. The world was still dark. It was still dangerous. But I was not alone. The man beside me was a killer. He was a monster. He was a boss. But he was also just Vincent, and he was mine. I had come to a wedding looking for an escape, and I had found a war. I had come to a party as a guest, and I was leaving as a queen. Love and power. I used to think they were opposites. I used to think one was a weakness and the other was strength. I looked at our joined hands and then at the glittering, sleeping city below. I was wrong. They were not opposites. They were two sides of the same, sharp, beautiful coin, and together we finally had both. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where in the world you are listening from, so please leave a comment and let me know so we can connect. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to my channel, Mafia Boss Stories. Like this video, and give it a huge boost by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.